Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching Easynomics. Today on the show, we have Ajay Srivastava, founder of the Global Trade Research Initiative, one of India's foremost trade experts, who joins us today to unpack what's been happening on the tariff front, including the United States, the United Kingdom, even Bangladesh, and all the latest developments in this regard. Welcome to the show, Ajay. I want to begin by getting you to explain to our viewers what's happening with Bangladesh, because that's pretty recent in terms of the action that we have taken, and this action perhaps stems from reasons to do with the internal turmoil in Bangladesh and how things are therefore playing out with respect to India. But I wanted you to explain to our viewers, as far as the trade curbs that we have imposed on Bangladesh, what are they really and what kind of impact are they likely to have?
Siddharth, so Bangladesh used to be a great garment exporting country. They were adding other products like leather products into their kitty. But somehow, since the last power shake-up, the religious elements they have taken up and they are being taken advantage by many countries are happening in the, and one of them is to have a hardline approach against India. Without any provocation, Bangladesh has prohibited imports from India of many things, and they do it regularly. So as a response, India took a very calibrated approach. So India did not prohibit any of the imports from them. We wanted to just give them a teaser. So we said, okay, they cannot come through the land route, and you please, if you want to ship to India, you ship through the sea route. So everything can come still. Nothing is stopped. But they stopped many of our things, and we are just reacting a disproportionately lower level because we know that they rely on us. We had great relationships with them. And so India's response is calibrated at a lower end deliberately.
There were some reports, Mr. Srivastava, that suggest that Bangladesh, the impact in terms of export and export potential would be to the tune of almost 700.
We only did that calculation. It's very easy. You know, most of the imports, for example, last year we imported $660 million worth of garments from them. Most of these big brands you hear of, H&M, Zara, etc., Primark, etc., they all make in Bangladesh. They export to world over, and many of they end up into our malls also. And that's all right. It's all legal. So we calculate. So Indian government imposed a port restriction, which means they cannot come through the port route. They have to come via the sea route only. So it has not stopped. But I agree with you that that figure is absolutely correct. This accounts for about 40% of India's imports from Bangladesh.
Mr. Srivastava, has Bangladesh over the years also increasingly become a transshipment hub for Chinese goods to come into India?
See, legally, it's not allowed. So India and Bangladesh has a very liberal agreement, one-sided liberal, I say. So India thought Bangladesh used to be the least developed country. So India unilaterally, it allowed Bangladesh to export everything. Everything means everything except cigarette and alcohol to India. So they can export everything to India at zero tariffs except these two things. And they are taking advantage of that. So they buy fabric from China, they convert it into garments and they export to India. Their major exports is garments, nevertheless. But this transshipment, that may be happening on a very small scale because Bangladesh is a competent garment exporter. They are doing that.
If the it is, will it be time for India to review the LDC status from India?
So Bangladesh has graduated from LDC. They are to be reviewed by India and other countries. So Bangladesh is under a lot of pressure because it will be losing all these tariff benefits they were getting from India, Europe, or America. So it's a real pain for them. That's why we say we have to handle them with a lot of kindness and care. They are not understanding that they are inflicting damage on themselves. They cannot do anything to India. That's why I say India should extend all the possible hand to them, of helping hand to them. And if nothing happens, then of course India will have to adopt tough approach.
Absolutely. I wanted to take up this Bangladesh issue because this was more of an emerging situation, but I'm glad you have explained it to our viewers, the various dynamics that are involved. Let's move outside of our near region, and as we move towards that, viewers, please understand that we live in a very troubled neighborhood, and there is a curse of geography that India has. You have Pakistan on one hand, you have China, you have Bangladesh, you have other smaller countries like Myanmar and Sri Lanka, not of course in the same problem creator category, and therefore and its continuing export growth, we have to look well beyond our borders. Mr. Srivastava, therefore, as part of that looking well beyond our borders after a gap of several years, we now have a trade pact with the United Kingdom, and that seems to be the first of many that we intend to sign. Over the last 1 year or so, we have seen a new calibration with regard to our trade engagement from the government. You recently wrote that it is time for India to pause and sort of reassess its trade strategy. This was in the context of the United Kingdom deal. Why do you believe that is the case?
Siddharth, we have been signing free trade agreements for at least 25 years now. The first one we signed comprehensive free trade agreement with Sri Lanka in 1998. And since then, we have signed with Singapore, ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, now 2 years back, Singapore, then with Switzerland, Norway, now with the UK, in between UAE. So we have host of free trade agreements. And so we say we are at the right juncture. We completed our FTAs with the Eastern Bloc countries. Now we are moving west, where we are trying to negotiate with the UK and EU and USA. So we are at a juncture. So since we have been negotiating for 25 years, the right time we have to assess what they have given to the country. Have our exports gained, or our only imports have gained? What we have gained or lost in other areas of the FTAs? So this will be a great guide for the negotiators for future development. Are there any lessons for them? But unfortunately, I have not seen any in-depth study on the performance of the FTAs. If we talk about the basic data, of course, we signed our major FTAs, for example, with Japan, South Korea, and ASEAN about 15 years back. And our exports have increased to all the three regions, but imports have increased at 50% higher rate than the exports. So this is just one matrix. There are at least 10 more matrices which needs to be evaluated. So I say we must evaluate at this point. We completed 25 years. Country must know how they have performed. Are there any lessons? Do we need any course correction? That's the background.
And with respect to the UK deal, what are the pros and cons of the deal, given whatever details we have in the public domain so far?
So Siddharth, as you rightly said, the legal text and details are not available. Whatever little we know is mostly because of the details put out by the UK Department of Trade. And if we extrapolate the details with the data, then we know broadly this. In the goods, UK is going to eliminate tariffs on 99% of Indian products. That sounds good, but UK is a developed country. 55% of these 99% goods, they were already entering UK at zero MFN tariffs, which means the net benefits to Indian products will be on 99 minus 55. That is 44% of goods will have net reduction in tariffs. 55% were already reaching without the FTA zero tariffs in UK. What are these products which will gain? These textiles, apparels, leather goods, low-end engineering goods, and many such goods, they will gain while they are being exported from India to UK. On our side, for UK, we also cut tariffs on 90% of the tariff line. So most of the UK exports will be benefiting from the tariff cuts. We, of course, did not open dairy and many of the agriculture industrial products, which we consider sensitive. So this is about this. We did something for the first time in the UK FTA. We cut tariffs on the automobiles. We have signed so many FTAs. We had so much pressure from, say, Japan or South Korea to open our auto sector. We never. We thought that this is one sector which did not exist in 80s. It's a recent creation. We have to protect it. But in UK, we agreed to cut the tariffs from 100% to 10% in a gradual fashion. Have cut the tariffs on EVs also. EV is such a nascent sector, and we have this Tata Motors. We could have done without. You'll get more pressure from European Union, you will get more pressure from USA to open the auto sector. In few years, we'll see many of the low tariffs giving tough time to Indian domestic manufacturers. So, Siddharth, I want to give one So Australia in late 80s, they were having 10 auto companies making cars in Australia, and tariff protection was 45%. Then they thought tariffs are high, let's cut the tariffs. So they bought the tariffs from 45% to 5% over the next 10 years. Believe me, all the 10 disappeared. They are after the car makers, please come again, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. Nobody turned up. So we must protect it. If we are open, we should be very clear what we are getting in return. Those things are not clear.
Is there a fair to India's auto sector, the kind of scenario that you said played out in Australia?
You got it right. Australia in the similar situation, it has disappeared. You know, many countries, our tariffs are high. But I said tariffs high or low is not important. Japan tariffs are less than 10% auto, but more than 90% cars on Japanese roads are Japanese cars. Despite the low tariffs, there are so many big non-tariff barriers. Same is the case with South Korea. So countries, they protect their auto industry fiercely with tariff and the combination of non-tariff measures. We should do this unless we have very clear notion what we are going to get in return. That somehow comfort I'm not getting.
That's an important point you make regarding perhaps the absence of comfort in that regard. Do you think there is any merit in the argument that we have heard, not specifically with regard to what has been proposed in the UK automobile part of it, but that how long can you continue to support and protect Indian industry? After all, if they grow to a certain size and maturity, they should be globally competitive. Do you buy into that argument?
Think only about what's good for my country. If I have to protect for 1,000 years, if it's good for my country, I'll protect. Industry provides for 1/3 of manufacturing GDP. If I count the jobs on the streets, garage, which are strewn across the streets of our country, more than 4 crore jobs, some kind of jobs are supported by this industry. Why should I open this? If I have to open this, I should have very clear reason what I'm getting. Of course, if I get something great, I'll compromise on this. But that comfort, that's what I said. There is no hard and fast rule that I should not open. I can open if you show me what I'm getting. What I'm getting is not clear to me.
That's an important point. And remember, viewers, that the United Kingdom used to be an automobile manufacturing power, but that was many, many years ago. Since then, that base has gotten reduced. To some extent, the UK has got deindustrialized, but it's also equally true that Jaguar Land Rover is a company now owned by the Tatas. But Mr. Srivastav, let's take automobiles as the point to get into the India-US trade negotiations that are underway. What is your sense? President Donald Trump has repeatedly gone on record to say that India has offered to drop its tariffs to 0%. He has also linked trade with what happened recently, and he said that he brokered a ceasefire because he said that I will not do trade with you. What's your own sense? Is it correct that India has indeed offered to drop tariffs on zero when it comes to goods trade with the United States?
No, Siddharth, I am 100% sure, knowing our negotiators, knowing our leaders, that this cannot be the case. We can offer on plenty of products, but not all products. For example, we can never offer zero tariffs on basic agriculture products. Wheat, rice, unthinkable. So what Mr. Trump is saying has to be taken with a pinch of salt. I cannot believe in my wildest dream that this has been offered. In fact, this cannot be offered. He must be mentioning about India has offered on most things. So here, my problem or pain is this: everyone from US side, be it Donald Trump or his Commerce Secretary or USTR, they always talk about what they want from India. Even we talk about what we can give to US. Where is the talk about what they are going to get to us? And that's where the things are very worrying. If you look at the US and UK trade deal, it was totally one-sided, tilted in the favor of US. US cut tariffs on 2030 items. In return, UK was forced to cut tariffs on more than 2,500 tariff lines. US cut tariffs on steel to zero, but in other products, they cut tariff to zero for them. So they want for most products. That's not done, deal or no deal. I mean, we don't need such deals. I mean, it's like bullying, and we are a big country. We should never give up to bullies.
What in your assessment is the possibility of India and US arriving at a deal? Because while India-US trade deal had been spoken, Trump's pressure and bullying, as you put it, there doesn't seem best course of action.
So best course of action is very clear. Mr. Donald Trump feels that Indian tariffs are high. Of course, they are high in many cases, and US is not able to export because of those high tariffs. So we offer them, okay, for 90% of your exports, we are willing to make tariff zero from day one. But this will be a reciprocal deal. You also make tariff zero on 90% of our goods. What are these goods? These are all industrial goods except automobiles. So it's about the export numbers. It's about the trade deficit. I am willing to make 90% of your exports at zero tariffs in India. Forget about high tariffs and all those things. I think this can be the fairest deal, and we should stick to this. We should offer them this deal in this. And of course, this has to be the reciprocal deal, unlike the US-UK deal, which is absolutely non-reciprocal, one-sided.
Do you believe that some sort of early pact is going to be possible? In the past, Mr. Srivastava, that the end of the current calendar year has been spoken about as a possible timeline for India-US trade deal. There have been reports that there could be an early version of that. What is your own understanding of this?
Siddharth, I think deal can be expected any moment, today, this week, this month, because US doesn't have the patience for a negotiated deal dealing with the 24, 30 subjects like we did with the UK. US-UK deal is a model for them. So they were negotiating, they announced a deal covering top items. I cut tariffs on 20 items, you cover on 3,000 items, you buy more Boeings and buy more oil, and deal is done, top line deal is done, this is announced. Rest teams will wrestle for months together to finalize. Nobody will even look at that. I think such deals because that 8 July 90-day timeline is 8 July, and US may be looking at quick gains. And so US UK type of deal is very much possible for India. That may happen any moment.
Okay. Broader question, and this is to do with China. While we engage with many other countries also, you are yourself aware of the fact that we have some sort of conversations with other trading nations and blocs as well. But for now, I want to ask you about the China factor. The China factor is not just in trade terms a big problem for us. We know the amount of trade and dependence that we have on China. China also has national security ramifications, what it does with us and what it does with our enemies. We saw a glimpse of that very recently. What should our trade policy be now with China in a world where Mr. Trump has practically torn up every deal, yet he went ahead and did a pact with China just days ago? What should our approach be, sir?
So, Siddharth, our approach should be as it is today. That is, today our approach is very transactional. Even after Galwan, we didn't restrict trade. We just issued one circular that investment from China will be scrutinized in certain sectors. We didn't stop even the investments. And trade continue increasing, especially the import part. So we need Chinese products. We need their intermediates. We need their APIs. We need their engineering goods, machinery, everything. We cannot live without China. We can live without US in terms of trade, but not without China. We have to prepare a lot. So, but this India-China relationship is transactional. I need something, machinery, I buy from you. And we don't need to develop great synergies or investments because, as you rightly said, politically, our relations are not very stable. Till the relations are stable, let's continue with this model. If whatever I need, I buy from you. Whatever you need, you buy from me. So this is transactional model, and this has been successful despite all the political tension. It continues.
Mr. Srivastava, when President Trump announced what he called Liberation Day for the United States, there was a renewed sentiment that this was going to be India's moment, because what the US wanted to do was to reduce its dependence on China and also those countries which have become transshipment hubs for Chinese goods into America. Since then, we have seen a preliminary deal between the US and China. Are those hopes still valid that with lesser reliance on China from the United States, that India stands a chance in a new trade order that seems to be emerging?
What you said, I thought of the same thing on April 2 Liberation Day, when Trump imposed the highest tariffs of 245% on China, 26% on India. So many of my friends from Calcutta, Chandigarh, they were calling me that serious investors from China and US, they have landed in these places, and they have landed with their bags full of money, and they want to JVs with Indian firms, say apparel firms, low-end engineering firms, which are functioning factories. They wanted to investment so that they can bring intermediates or inputs from China, make the finished goods from India, and exports to US. So that was happening. But then after the US-China deal, most of those things have fizzled out. Still, the difference in tariff, China is say 30%, India is 10%. Still some gap is there. But this 30% on China is that 20% is fentanyl. And that may soon go. So China will come in our category, rest of the world category at 10%. So fentanyl tariff, they will go, and rest of the world will be 10%. So thing to remember is that for US, 10% is the new zero tariff for them. And there all the countries are equal like MFN tariffs. And there all this arbitrage, China plus one, it goes haywire. And whatever progress was there, I don't think anybody is going to put any money on that anymore till some more clarity on policy aspect is there.
One final question before I thank you, Mr. Srivastava, and this is a broader question. most of us grew up in what was called a globalized world. Now you have seen headlines and assessment that we are headed towards a phase of deglobalization. In what form and to what extent, that might still be a matter of debate. But it's clear that the old trade order, the old way things used to happen, may not be happening for the new term. In all of this, what kind of broader trade policy should India follow so that it is not only able to protect its industry, but grow exports and continue to attract foreign investment?
Great question, Siddharth. I always felt that India is paying far too much attention to the trade policy and far less on making good products. India should focus all its energy on making great products. If you have a great product, you don't need much of the trade policy. China had never a great trade policy. They were making great products. That's why they could sell to everyone. For selling an iPhone type of product, don't need to advertise, don't need a trade agreement. People will buy it. And today, problem is that we need to talk about this. There is a lot of talk on FTAs, but where is the talk on making good things? For example, we import fasteners, we import nuts and bolts. Today, we import nail cutters, we import knives, we import very small things. And we can make all these things, and we can make very high-tech things also, all these things. But there is no discussion, serious discussion on the country. I think we have to, all these trade policy things should take a backseat. For the next 5 or 10 years, we should talk on making a great product in the country.
Absolutely, and that will make India great again when it comes to manufacturing of products. Mr. Srivastava, thank you very much for taking out the time and taking all those questions. Ladies and gentlemen, one of India's foremost trade exports, giving us a very honest and critical appraisal of the recent developments on the trade front. Thank you once again. We'll be back with more. Until then, goodbye.
India's Big Bang Global Offensive to brief the world on Operation Sindoor and its devastating blow to Pakistani terror, deploying an all-party delegation of Member of Parliaments. But the show of unity and unanimity comes amid a political tussle.